Listeners, welcome back once again to Lost in Postulation. I am Neil Fitzpatrick and I am joined by, they tried to make him go to rehab and he said, I barely drink alcohol, so I don't see the point. It's Nicola Volpe.
Yeah, indeed. Who tried to make me go there? Was it you? They. The mob.
The song is deliberately vague about who tried to make her go to rehab.
They tried to make me go to rehab, but I said, no.
I was just picturing a scenario where you would have to, really explain in detail how you have an incredibly healthy lifestyle and have no requirement whatsoever for rehab.
Right, but that addictive personality, some would say.
Is there rehab for that? Yeah, I suppose.
Well, I guess so.
Depending on the addiction.
Tiger Woods, I think, had gone to rehab for a sex addiction.
He may well have done.
Back in the day.
The standards for what is acceptable or in need of rehab are different, let's say, overseas versus perhaps where we're from. But never rule it out. Never rule it out. There you go.
Rest in peace, Amy Winehouse.
Always the 27 Club, one of the finest members.
Might be around the 10-year anniversary of her death. Actually.
Imagine if it was like today or something, and that would be...
Look at you.
That would be spooky. It's not... No, I wasn't that well
reading
researched.
that on the tube ride over to the studio today.
I wish I was that well prepared. But no, here we are, back postulating once again. Once
again, without Amy Winehouse, but you were quite a big fan of hers.
I wish I could say I was. The cool thing would be to say I was a fan before she was cool.
Right.
I wasn't. And I was a bit kind of perplexed by the whole hype. I was one of those skeptics who was like, I don't really get it. Isn't she kind of just, but she is amazing. Like, and having listened back, I'm like, wow, she was an insane talent. But I can't pretend. I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't a huge fan at the time.
You didn't call it Adele or Amy?
Depends what we're rating here.
Voice.
I think for soul, for vocal soul, Amy takes it every time. Better performances, more kind of connection. I think more energy in her performances. But Adele, technically, from like a hitting the notes and belting them out perspective, she's like unmatched.
Yeah.
Both great singers in their own right.
Fantastic. A lot of breakup albums, both of them actually, kind of.
Keep them coming. Yeah, for Adele, it's like, keep having those breakups, because it's same with Taylor Swift. It's like, it's obviously helping you produce her work. So
well, and Taylor Swift now, there's a pop culture moment. I don't know if you've been following. She is dating tight end of the Kansas City Chiefs, and now all of a sudden the NFL is all about Taylor Swift being able to tap into a new demographic.
Unbelievable. Her publicists have swung and hit home runs yet again with this latest move. I'm sure, not to cast any aspersions on the legitimacy of her relationship, but I can imagine his publicist spoke to hers at some point.
Right.
So yeah,
maybe not sort of arranged marriage now in 2023.
That's an interesting one, actually. The comparison between historically, frowned upon arranged marriages and how we've tried to move away from that, juxtaposed with the modern phenomenon of celebrities being paired up together by their publicists, basically, for clout, for hype.
Why not?
One to explore in a future postulation.
Right. Well, we can have them onto the podcast to discuss and
that list of people we want to have on, but who are not answering our calls just gets longer and longer.
Yeah, they don't really check those mobiles
the DMs,
anymore, do they? No, maybe we should reach out to their agents. Anyways, Neil, here we are, and our agents can reach out to us via lostinpostulation@gmail.com.
They sure can. Yeah. They can also find us on X. That is at In Postulation on X, or they can find us on Instagram. That is Lost in Postulation, I believe, on Instagram. Yeah. They can find us on YouTube. Can't remember the tag there. Was it also just Lost in Postulation podcast?
That was Lost in Postulation. The Lost in Postulation podcast on YouTube.
Speaking of, and this very video may even end up on there, right? We have it rolling once again. So if you're listening right now on the podcast and you're thinking, I wonder what those guys look like, think and wonder no more, because you can literally just go to YouTube and find out.
Please stick with us regardless of that. If you do not like what you see on the video, but you like the audio content,
just close your eyes.
Yeah. Stay with it. Stick with it.
We'll try to do good audio even if you don't like the video.
Yeah, and we'll also try to do a good appearance via video, but it's a bit more difficult than
we're not miracle workers, guys.
Right, exactly.
We're working with what we got here.
The software can only do so much.
AI has not advanced far enough, apparently. Yeah.
Well, Neil, a lot of things have advanced in the scientific community, and that's where I wanted to start my mundane postulation.
Alrighty.
This summer has been weird. I've been approached on various occasions from family and friends about a potential procedure. We are a One Cap podcast.
Yes.
Sometimes there's reasons for that. Sometimes there's not.
Yeah.
Before this mundane, ensue huge eye roll from all our female listeners, probably, because you can skip over to the next segment if this doesn't interest you. But I thought it was about time we discussed this topic.
On air.
Yeah. And come to a unified theory of this procedure. Okay. First instance, around June in the summer this year, we're having like a family brunch, and one of my brothers-in-law, both good guys, like both of them. I think you've met both of them actually. Yeah. Approaches me, and we're to the side, just me and him talking, and he's like, "So, when are we going to do it?"
I like that approach. I like the we approach rather than the you approach. So that's good.
I have no clue what he's talking about.
Oh, okay. Like, maybe the listeners don't know.
Putting his hands on my shoulders. Yeah. When are we going to do it? Like shaking me, getting me pumped. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Uh-huh. He says, it's time. And he points up to the top of his head. He starts rubbing his temples. Yeah. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, nah, not for me, bro. Like, it's all good. Yeah. And he's like, no, I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, what are you gonna do? Where you gonna go to Turkey or something? Because that used to be a popular destination to do this type of procedure, which we'll reveal soon. He's like, no, can do it in London now. He's living in London. It's like, okay. Cost went down dramatically, apparently, also. Economies of scale, Neil, something we learned in our classes.
Vaguely remember that, yeah.
And I'm like, nah, man, you know what? I'm all good. And then he insists. He starts showing me pictures of his friends that got it, the befores, the afters. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, man. Like, go for it. Let me know how it goes. A couple weeks later, met at a dinner party. And a good friend of mine takes me to the side. And he says, hey, I thought it would be great to talk to you about this, but I'm thinking of getting this procedure. Do you want to join me for it? We can go to Germany for the weekend. It'll be fun. Germany for the weekend. It will be fun, by the way. Huge oxymoron.
Yeah, exactly. I doubt it.
And he takes me through all the details, shows me pictures from his consultation, bunch of stuff, procedure again. And then a couple weeks ago, I'm watching Italian football on the television. And there's, you know how on the sideline you have the sponsors, right? The ads. Dr. Yilchis or something. Hair transplants in Turkey. So I have been inundated by offers, direct and indirect, to get a hair transplant. And my answer has been, you know what? I'm good. I'll shave it off once the time gets there. But it's becoming a thing. It's becoming also a socially acceptable thing. So I told, my friend, for example, the second example that approached me, I said, you know what, I respect that. Also because he was saying, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be very open about it. Yeah. Where do you land on the male hair transplant, Neil?
Yeah. It's such a good question. And it's one of those things that if you'd asked me at any random time over the past 2 years, I would probably give you a different answer just because my opinion of it is up and down and left and right. Where I'm at these days with it is there's one particular scenario that I'm against it, right? And I'll explain. The scenario I'm against is, say someone has really attached to it to the point where they're very, very self-conscious about it. And they're like, they've gotten to a point, consciously or subconsciously, that they're like, every problem in my life stems from the fact that I'm goddamn going bald here. Right. And if I only was not bald, it would solve all the other problems, right? And because of that, I do think that's very common among people in general with any sort of body dysmorphia or any part of their body they really obsess over, right? And sure enough, they go and spend big money to get it fixed, right? And I think that's a very dangerous scenario because when that person comes back from that and has a beautiful full head of hair and realizes that all of their problems from before are still there unsolved, right? And maybe girls didn't like them for other reasons than just hair. Maybe there was also like aspects of their personality they should have worked on, or getting fitter, or all of these things. So many things. And that's very dangerous because you will then spend a hell of a lot of money and time on a procedure that's purely aesthetic. And honestly, if your goal, even from an attracting point of view, if you're single, if your goal is that if I just do this, I will attract the woman of my dreams, right? If the woman of your dreams wouldn't go out with you now, but would go out with you then, that's not the woman of your dreams. Because yes, indeed. Because they're basing it all on whether the person has hair or not, right? So I would also argue that whatever you think is going to come from it externally, whatever new behavior you're expecting from the world, I do believe that The Rock and Vin Diesel and Bruce Willis and every other very successful and much beloved bald guy has found a way through without it, right? So I suppose, and you got me going now on a proper rant. You feel really passionate about this. I think I do from a, and this is as close as we'll get to a self-help, podcast or whatever. And you're coming in unprepped. Like this is top of the dome. So top of the dome. Imagine if I did prep. But what I guess I'm going to land this on is if you're going to go for it, you have my full blessing. And especially if it's going to make you happy, just go for it. In
LIP
general.
endorsed.
Basically, yeah. Like if it's going to make you happy and to the best of your knowledge, then go for it, whatever. But if you're doing it because you expect a dramatic change in your life and that people are going to treat you differently and see you differently and everything's just going to go better, you're going to get that promotion, you're going to find that wife or whatever, like
find new people.
Just double check a bit your assumptions there, and also double check, is there maybe anything else that you could do that doesn't cost thousands and thousands of euro and flying to a different country and pain and the recovery and all that, and
it falling off again. I was reading about the procedure before coming into the studio today.
I mean, and also if you were like 80 and had like a thick full head of hair, that's also kind of unusual. Like, you know,
all of a sudden after having gone 30 years without one.
Exactly. And by the way, like, yes, okay, you will have the full head of hair. It will still go grey. It will still probably you'll still get wrinkles. You'll still you know, your skin will change in other ways.
Right.
So you start yourself on a slippery slope then of, am I going to intervene with every defect along the way, or is this the only one and am I done now? Because if it's the latter, then don't even do that one, you know?
Right.
But it's a great question. As you can see, I could go for hours on this. I could postulate until my voice goes hoarse, but I won't, thankfully, to the listeners. But it's a very interesting topic.
Yeah.
Where I land on this is I'm the same as you. I'm like not super interested by it. A bit just because of, I just don't think it'll change much. Like, I would come back from that procedure and have a full head of hair, but how I feel wouldn't really change that much, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
I've experienced it with my own father, where he was, he was balding on top. I'm like you, more receding. And he had his goal was, you know, have my first child, still have hair. Then I'm good. Then he went to second child. And then it got into this iffy territory for about 15 years where he had this comb over trying to hide it. But when you look at pictures of that now, you're like,
get it gone.
Get it gone, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, he did it. He was in business, away for business, in an elevator in Japan with the mirrors all over the place. And he looked up and he's like, Jesus. And he called my mom and he's like, why haven't you ever told me about this? And my mom's a bit like, well, you know, it was pretty obvious, dude.
Yeah.
Ends up shaving it off. He's been shaved for maybe 13 years now or something, and
beautiful.
It looks like he's never aged over those 13 years.
See, that's the huge thing. Not a grey hair on his head or any other bald
hair on
guy's
his head. Yeah.
So, like, literally, eternal youth is granted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a great case study in that sense.
It is actually. There's a swing to it where, like, you may actually want to be bald by a certain age, because it's like, hey, you could be 40 or you could be 60, and no one can really totally nail it down.
No,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there is another, like, there's nuance in these transplants, right? So there is the transplant, you know, as we know it, which actually kind of started already in the 1950s.
Okay.
And has evolved from there. Yeah. But I was reading, and actually I've met a person that has had this one, where there is the follicle tattoo.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that as well.
You know what I mean?
Where, they're only going to really have a buzz cut ever.
Exactly.
But it just gives it the look of a
full buzzed head of hair. But then you have to keep shaving your head basically every day, so it doesn't get weird with like hairs coming through the tattoo.
Yeah. And again, like with any discussion of tattoos, I'm always against implementing something where you remove choice from your life, you know? So in this example, you're very much lifelong committed to that, unless you go for another procedure to remove the tattoos, which is, you know, more laser surgery or whatever.
Right.
So that's also one where I would rather say, hey, look, maybe consider just taking the full hit, you know?
Right.
And embracing it. Hit
the
sleeves,
gym, back,
go
everything.
For a beard if you can do that, you know? Yeah.
Beard transplants as well, actually, for guys that can't grow beards. Yeah, it's a thing. It is a thing. Exhibit A right here.
Oh yeah, you're a recipient.
Yeah, I've had this one since I'm about 13, I think.
Exactly.
But yeah, there you have it on hair transplants. A topic that you feel very strongly about.
I think a lot of people feel very strongly, and I've seen, to be clear, I've seen great examples, like people who took the decision. Probably even at the time, I would have been like, I don't know, but then it all works out and it's great. So it's not to say that it's, you know, terrible or anything. It's all about the reasons. It's all about the justification, right?
Maybe less stigmatized now than it used to be, though, right?
Yeah. I would like to think that in this era now of general like body positivity, all sizes are beautiful, like all these things. Right. I would like to think that the majority of people will not judge somebody for not having hair, right?
You would like to think that.
I would hope now that we've all matured enough, you know, that's the thing. Right. Is that the case? Probably not. I know heightism is still a big one, especially for guys that guys who have zero control, obviously, over their height, still get a lot of stick and being called, oh, hey, shorty, or short arse, or whatever, you know, which is just as bad as any other type of body shaming, but it's like
it's a complex also, right?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, your friend.
Yeah. It's Napoleon, like these.
Napoleon is the classic.
I like to think now that as time goes on, 23, 24, 25, into the next 10 years, we will continue to become more accepting of people's aspects that they can't control of themselves. Therefore, I'm a sell on hair transplants because I'm like, as time goes on, probably it just isn't such a big deal.
Okay. Yeah. Well, top 3 of lifts in shoes, since we're postulating through this. Napoleon, Tom Cruise, Silvio Berlusconi.
Oh, Silvio, yeah.
He had lifts.
He needed them.
He definitely needed them. But, there is some sort of thread, which we won't go into now, between those 3 characters.
Definitely.
Could you say?
Definitely. Wouldn't you say, and this is also a little postulation, the taller... There is maybe a correlation between how chill people are and how tall they are. Because some of the chillest guys I know are gigantic, like they're way bigger than me, and they're just like, sounds good. Life is just whatever for them.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're looking at it from their ivory tower.
Exactly. But if you flip it, then the other side of that spectrum, who are the most amped up, fiery, angry people you know? Sorry to say, the Napoleon complex is real.
The former short kid syndrome.
Yeah. I mean, they've spent their whole lives having to, fight for attention in space. So yeah, of course. Yeah. But probably one for another
Definitely, mundane. That's a very interesting one. Well, Neil, thanks for this mundane postulation.
No worries.
After the break, we're going to come back with a whole new degree of mundane.